On January 3, 2026, when the whole world was celebrating New Year's, the United States intervenes Venezuela. The United States military launched a major military strike in Venezuela, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife and bringing them back to United States for further trials. Sitting government is removed, a regime collapses under American power. Officially, it's about stability. Unofficially, it's about control. The control of world largest oil reserve. But across the world, one country is watching very closely, and it has set its eyes again on its long term goal. A piece of island only 130 kilometers close, but distant by the years old world order and politics. This goal never seemed more closer than it is now. After World War II, Japan lost control of Taiwan after its surrender. In the mainland China, something else is about to get cooked. In 1949, the Chinese Civil War ends with a communist victory on the mainland under revolutionary Mao Zedong. The defeated national government flees to Taiwan. Two governments now claim one China. Initially, the United States stays out of the Chinese dispute, viewing it as a civil conflict. US President Truman administration even drew a defense parameter, but it excluded Taiwan. That changed overnight in 1950. The Korean War erupts. North Korea, supported by Chinese Communist regime, and Soviet Union invade South Korea. Suddenly, Taiwan becomes a strategic barrier against communist expansion. Truman orders the US 7th Fleet into the Taiwan nautical zone, freezing the Korean conflict and extending the defense parameter, this time including Taiwan. Taiwan is no longer a civil war issue. It becomes a Cold War frontline. United States even deploys nuclear missiles in the zone. China and Soviet Union shared the same ideology, but the cracks seemed to appear in the 1960s as Mao grew to consider Soviet as a great threat than the capital US, accusing them of being too accommodating to the West. The clash continued on their shared border. China and Soviet Union turned hostile towards each other. Washington sees an opportunity. In 1972, President Richard Nixon and his right hand Henry Kissinger planned to lay a foundation with China, and Nixon himself traveled to Beijing to make this happen. He makes a deal with China which was simple and also dangerous. In 1979, the United States smartly acknowledged one China and formally recognized People's Republic of China and moved its embassy from Taipei to Beijing, but did not define which China is legitimate. This came to known as deliberate strategic ambiguity. The US aimed at deterring any attack by China to invade Taiwan, but also to not have Taiwan its official independence. There was a huge question mark whether US would intervene militarily in Taiwan when the time came. Taiwan is left deliberately unresolved by US. In 1979, the US Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act. The US will sell arms to Taiwan, US will help Taiwan defend itself, but it never promised to militarily intervene. Ultimately, US removed its nuclear missiles from Taiwan's bases. This uncertainty or strategic ambiguity actually becomes a deterrent for Chinese because Chinese are confused whether US would actually fight if they decide to forcefully take over Taiwan. That's why over the years they never decide to take over Taiwan. In 1996, Taiwan holds its first democratic presidential election. China responds by sending test ballistic missiles near the island. The US responds by sending aircraft carrier groups. The tension is again diffused. War is avoided, but the message was clear from China. The democracy of Taiwan is tolerated, but its independence not. In 2005, Beijing formalized and passed the Anti-Secession Law. The Anti-Secession Law authorized reserving the right to use non-peaceful means if Taiwan decides to permanently separate. For China, this was a legal justification to anytime invade Taiwan, but for Taiwan, it was a loaded gun. Taiwan strategically invested in becoming the indispensable manufacturer of the most advanced semiconductor chips, yes, the new age gold. Like Venezuela, who has the largest oil reserves in the world, Taiwan manufactures 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductor chips. These are the chips that power everything from your smartphone to AI. This manufacturing ability to produce chips is so critical to the global economy that companies like Nvidia of US, which is now world's most valuable company, would cease to exist without Taiwan's ability to manufacture chips. Other major players, including Apple, AMD, and Qualcomm, also rely heavily on Taiwanese firms for their microchip supply. A silicon shield that would provide United States a powerful incentive to protect Taiwan, to protect its own economy. Xi Jinping has tied Taiwan directly to the survival of the Chinese Communist Party. Lose Taiwan and a promise of a unified China collapses. For decades, one idea kept the peace: strategic ambiguity. China didn't know if US would fight, and this uncertainty was enough till now. But now the United States is stretched. Greenland, Venezuela, Ukraine, and Iran. Multiple fronts will be exhausting and will be a visible weakness for US, and China knows this. China can actually invoke its Anti-Secession Law, which explicitly states non-peaceful means to take over Taiwan, and they won't even call it as an invasion. Now even they have a justification. If US can enter Venezuela and Russia can invade Ukraine, what is stopping China to invade Taiwan as well? Taiwan sits at the center of the first island chain, the defensive arc holding China inside the Pacific. Japan, Philippines, Australia, Vietnam. If Taiwan falls, the chain breaks. US contaminants, China's navies enter the open Pacific, South and East China Seas exposed, the Quad and US allies are exposed with it. The conflict expands instantly. The cyber attacks shut down financial systems, shipping lanes close, GPU and chip markets freeze, energy prices explode. Allies are forced to choose sides, neutrality becomes impossible. Every major power carries a list of territories lost, humiliations remembered, borders drawn by others. But during the moments like these, the other powers also draw the same conclusion, that is, to finish the unfinished business.
World War III does not start with one missile.
Начинается каждый, когда у власти есть.
Venezuela was not the war. Taiwan is not the cause. They are only dominoes. Hope you liked today's video. If you did, please share a like and subscribe. It's free for you, but it means so much to me. So see you next time. One smart mile at a time.